Welcome back for lesson 1.3, multi-step equations. So our goal today is to be able to, of course, solve multi-step equations. The reason why they're called multi-step is because in addition to everything we normally do in a two-step, you have to do distribution and combining like terms. There are two main things I want you to look for when we are solving equations that are multi-step. Number one is like terms. These terms have the same variable, therefore they can be combined. So for instance, 3x plus 4x is 7x. Okay, 1 pin plus 2 pins is 3 pins. Okay, but 3x plus 4 is not 7x. That's like saying that 1 pin plus 2 pencils is 3 pins. What? That doesn't make any sense. So they have to be the same thing. Since this 4 doesn't have an x, you're not allowed to add those together. Okay? The second thing is distribution. If there is a number in front of parentheses, it gets multiplied to everything inside the parentheses. Multiply to the inside. Okay, so for instance, this 3 times 2x is 6x, and 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. A lot of times you might have seen this like this. 1, 2. Some of you will call those the loopity-loops, some people call them the arches, the rainbow, whatever you want to call it. That's what you need to do. So look out for those things. X's, for instance, that you're allowed to add together, and if there's a number in front of parentheses, your first step should always be to multiply it. All right, once you've covered those two things, you're usually going to end up having a two-step equation left. So basically, you do these two things, and then it's like 1.2 again, which we've already practiced. Awesome. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do my work over here, and over here I'm going to say what I'm doing in each step. This is something I really want you guys to get used to, because if you know what you're doing for each step, and if you're taking the time to list it, you're more likely to make less mistakes because you're going too fast. Okay, so I don't see any parentheses, so I don't need to distribute. And what I'm going to do is cover up the right side of my equation, or I'll just do this, draw my equation bar. And what on this side am I allowed to add together? Well, there's a 9x and a negative 12x. 9 minus 12 is negative 3. X. Don't forget the x. Then I have 4 plus 7 left. Those both don't have a variable at all, so they're allowed to be added together. 4 plus 7 is 11. And then I'm going to write the equals negative 10. This part is just coming straight down. There's nothing different about it. And now we have a pretty normal two-step equation left. So I need to get x all by itself. We're going to move the 11 first because it's further away. The opposite of plus 11 is minus 11. Okay. And then these 11s are going to cancel out. Negative 10 minus 11, grab your calculator if you need to, is negative 21. And then over here, this negative 3x comes down, and it's the only thing left on that side. Then, I need to get rid of this negative 3. It is being multiplied by x, so we need to divide by it. And negative 21 divided by negative 3 is 7. Okay, now I'm going to go back through my work and kind of check it as I go. First thing I did was combine like terms. And because I don't mind if you guys use abbreviations, you can call this one CLT. I also don't mind if you just call it like terms. And then we did this, which was the subtraction. property of equality. And then the very last step was we divided by -3, so that's the division property of equality. Okay. And this is just my way of writing a lot of these things. If you have a different abbreviation you want to use, if you just wanted to say subtract and divide, I'm okay with that as long as you understand that you have to subtract and divide on both sides. Okay? Notice how combining like terms is not a property of equality because everything was already on the same side. So we didn't have to do the opposites. We kept this as 9 and this as -12. We didn't switch either of these because they're already on the same side. All right, let's move on to example 2. So I'm going to draw my equation wall. And I don't see any parentheses on either side, so I don't have to distribute. But over here, there are 3 things. That usually means you can add at least 2 of them together. Well, this has an x, but nothing else does. So that means the only thing I'm allowed to do is add together my 10 and my -3. Well, 10 minus 3 is 7. And notice how I kept the negative with the 6. I know this looks like -6x, but it's also kind of like -6x. Okay, so I combine my like terms, and now I'm ready for my next step. I have -6x, but I want to get rid of the 7 first, because it's further away from the x. It is a positive 7, so I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides. This leaves me with -6x equals 28 minus 7 is 21. Okay, so I did my subtraction property of equality. Great job. Now, this is -6 times x, so I need to divide by -6. Okay, and I'm going to pull out my handy dandy calculator. 21 divided by -6 is going to be -3.5, or -3.5. And my last step here was dividing, so I'm going to come over here and write division, PLE. Before I move on to examples 3 through 6, I'm just going to say really quickly, notice how on this one, I went back and did my steps at the end, and on this one, I did my steps as I went. I don't care. One of those is going to be easier for you. One of those is going to make more sense for you to think about in your head, so do whichever way you want. Okay, I'm going to go through these, start going a little bit faster now that we've done a couple. Start with my equation, river, bar, whatever you want to call it. I do have parentheses, so I need to multiply. -2 times 4x is -8x. -2 times -9 is positive 18. 2 negatives multiplied together makes a positive. And then the equals 38. Come over here, and I'm going to say that I distributed. Okay, now there's nothing I can add together over here because I have an x and no x. So I'm going to go ahead and do the opposite of plus, which is minus the 18. (38 minus 18 is 20. I'm going to come over here and say that I used subtraction. We've used that one on every single problem so far. Wow. Apparently Mrs. McFadden needs to mix up her problems more. And then I'm going to divide by -8. Okay, this is division, property of equality, and 20 divided by -8 is -2.5. Okay, so I'm giving you guys some problems that have decimals in them, and that's okay. All right, hopefully you've got that one written down now. Equation bar. I do have parentheses over here, so I'm going to multiply it. 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times 3 is 12. And I just distributed. Okay, then I'm going to look over here. This side looks kind of long right now, so there's probably something that I can add together. And there is 8x and negative 3x. And remember, we're not changing the signs, we're just doing 8 plus negative 3, which is 5. You do not have to change the sign if they're already on the same side of the equation. And then I combined like terms. And I'm going to get rid of addition by subtracting. I promise not all problems have subtraction in them, guys. It's just apparently all of the ones Mrs. McFadden picked for today's notes. Negative 18 minus 12 is negative 30. And the 5x is left over there. Okay. Subtract. And I'm going to do that because I need a little bit more space to write this next one, which is to divide by the 5. Negative 30 divided by 5 is negative 6. Okay. Awesome, last two. Now I put some of these in a little bit different order to kind of help you out a little bit. Equation wall, I'm going to multiply negative 2 by 3x. So this 8 is just hanging out there for a second. It's only the number directly in front of the parentheses that gets multiplied. So that's going to be negative 6x, and then negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. And then I'm going to add back the 8, and the equal is 28. Okay, now I'm going to check on this side. Am I allowed to add any of these together that are like terms? Yes, there are two numbers without variables, 8 and negative 10, which makes negative 2. Okay, so I just combine my like terms. And now I have my two-step equation left. Opposite of minus 2 is plus 2. So finally, I'm doing the addition property of equality. And then I'm going to divide by that negative 6. And that's division. 30 divided by negative 6 is negative 5. Okay, and then on number 6, the very last one, I'm going to put my equation wall up there, and then I'm going to look in front of this parentheses. Well, there's no number. We are always allowed to put a 1 in front if we need it. So that's like multiplying by negative 1 times both of these. That 7x is not directly in front of the parentheses. There's a minus sign in between them. So that's not what you multiply to the rest. So then that makes negative 8x, negative 4, and that's me distributing. And then I'm going to finish up by writing the minus 11 equals negative 4, and the 7x that were already there. Now, this one usually freaks people out because it looks really long. We're going to put together these two because they both have an x, and these two because they both don't have an x, or any letter at all. And then 7 minus 8 is negative 1, Negative 4 minus 11 is negative 15. If you're like me, you probably needed to pull your calculator out for that, and that's fine. So that's me combining my like terms. Now I want x to be by itself, so I'm going to get rid of this 15 by adding it. On both sides. That's the reason why we need to write property of equality afterwards. Negative 1x equals negative 4 plus 15 is 11. And then this is negative 1 times x. So we'll divide by that negative 1. And x equals negative 11. Okay.